Good morning, all. Welcome to Shaheen Chishti show. This show I will be presenting on a weekly basis. It's a podcast that will interview a woman who will describe her upbringing and if she's encountered any issues in that upbringing, and try to discuss generally the lives of women from various parts of the world. I welcome you to this show and thank you for your time.
Good afternoon to the world audience from India. We today have an amazing icon which I like to converse with. Her name is Urmila Hargrove. She has been a courage for women in India and across the world as to what she has achieved in her life, despite all the hurdles that she had to put up with. Welcome, ma'am, to the show today. I'm honored to have you today here. How are you?
Thank you. Fine, thank you.
Ma'am, I would be honored if you tell us a little bit about how your journey was in terms of your childhood, what kind of family you were born into, which part of India do you come from, so the listeners can understand and learn from it, please.
I belong to Mathura, a city in Uttar Pradesh.
Right,
I
right.
come to a family of lawyers. My father, my grandfather, everybody was, distinguished lawyer. So legal
Wonderful.
profession is in my family. We
Okay,
have got fifth generation of legal professional. Is my two granddaughters are lawyers.
wonderful. So I
Yeah,
assume that you came from a educated family of Uttar
yeah,
Pradesh, which is the largest province of India.
yeah.
Yes.
And I
How
think
did you, please?
that is a very special thing because three generations in my family were educated. My grandfather
Right,
was a graduate lawyer.
right,
So
right.
that made the difference. And the atmosphere in our house was totally amazing. Father was very liberal, broad minded, and without any gender bias. There was no difference in girls and boys, which is being faced in Uttar Pradesh even now. So
Right.
we were totally brought up in a very liberal atmosphere. We were given opportunities to develop our hobbies and talents. Like I was good in music, so all arrangements were given, and I was allowed to go for competitions out of city at that time.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about your music. Who do you like most? Is anybody inspired you in
I'm
India?
very fond of ghazals, and my
Wonderful.
favorite is I am very fond of ghazals only.
Please.
I sing geets and ghazal everything, but I am very fond of ghazals, and my favorite singers are uh, Jagjit Singh and from Pakistan, uh, Ghulam Ali.
Could we request that you
I
sing
love their.
something, a line or two for us, please, today?
Okay, recently, at my age, people lose their memory, but I can still remember. Recently, I have learned two ghazals. One is
Please.
I'll sing a few. हाँ. कभी यूं भी आ मेरी आँख में कि मेरी नजर को खबर न हो मुझे एक रात नवाज दे मुझे एक रात नवाज दे मगर उसके बाद सहर न हो कभी यूं भी आ मेरी आँख में कि मेरी नजर को खबर न हो. Is
Wow,
it
that's
enough?
wonderful. That's fantastic. You have so many talents. So let's start with your journey. So you were born, how many brothers and sisters did you have? What kind of relationship did you have with your
Large,
brothers and sisters? Please.
we were large families of
Mhm.
seven brothers, four sisters and three brothers.
Right.
So it was a large family.
Hmm.
But again, there was a certain uniqueness in the
Hmm.
family. because of the freedom and socializing. And my father was a very social person. He was a very good tennis player,
Wonderful.
and he was very famous for his bridge
Mhm.
also. So anybody who visited Mathura,
Yes.
they became our friends
Wonderful.
because of bridge. Yeah. So we inherited all his talents.
Yes.
Like I play bridge online even now, and I have
Yes.
got a wide circle of players all over the
Yes.
world.
Would you
And
say that was the first thing that kind of opened you up to being so intelligent that you are today, and an icon for women in the world? I would say
I think
maybe
maybe
that
the
helped.
heredity and heredity plus environment.
Right.
That is,
Right.
yeah, it made
So
us
what
bold.
was okay? What was tell our worldwide audience, because Mathura is very famous and Mathura is a wonderful religious
Yeah,
place.
famous
So
for
tell the world audience what it contains from Hinduism in Mathura, which is very famous. Please tell our world audience what's Mathura famous for, please.
it is famous for temples.
Correct.
Mathura and Vrindavan have got the maximum number of temples. In Vrindavan,
Right.
you can see a temple at every 50 yards.
Wonderful.
And
Wonderful.
so, and they are beautiful temples.
Hmm.
And during the month of July and August,
Yes.
Mathura is flooded with people
Right.
for religion. Yeah.
Ceremonies,
So
religious
that is
ceremonies,
yeah, that
basically.
is
Yes.
the main thing. That is
Right.
very basic thing for religion, like Varanasi, Mathura,
Yes. Yes.
and Allahabad. Yeah. So it is one of the
Wonderful.
most famous cities for
Correct,
religion.
correct. So it's
Yeah.
good. It's good for people in the world to learn about Mathura because
Yeah.
it's very close to
Yeah.
Varanasi. Varanasi is the oldest city in the world, and basically we encourage our world audience to come and tour our beautiful state of Uttar Pradesh, where we have such beautiful things to see, especially in the month of July and August, as Urmila ji
Yeah.
said. So tell us, Urmila ji, in terms of your upbringing, who was the most influential person for you when you were growing up? Was it your mother or your father or your grandfather or someone else?
I lost my mother when I was young. So it
Hmm.
was only my father
Right,
who brought us up.
right, right. So the father played a role of a mother as well, I'd
Major
say,
role.
in an Indian
Major-
society.
Yeah.
How was that? How did you how did you put up with that? Because obviously there are certain characters, both men and women, they bring in a relation. How did you find, discussing things with your father? Was he open? I mean, he sounds like your father was way ahead of his
Very,
times in India. Yes, very open about things. Yes.
very open about it. We discussed everything, and he made us bold, and he believed that education means not only formal education, but it should one should rise above the superstitions. So being in Mathura, a city famous
Yes.
for religion only, we
Yes.
were not interested in rituals, or we
Right.
never believed in superstitions. So that is one
Wonderful.
very good
Wonderful.
aspect, and I feel very
Yeah.
unhappy that now religion, not actual
Yes.
religion,
Yes.
regressive rituals have been encouraged and people are going backwards.
Right. Right. Okay. Well, that's a very, very valid point. So then your journey started in Mathura. Then obviously you went to school in Mathura.
Yeah, yeah.
Then tell us more
No,
about
yes.
how, and then you went to university. Where did you go? University or college in India, please?
Allahabad, college and
Hyderabad.
university in
Yes.
Allahabad. Allahabad, yes. I did my
Right.
master's degree in education. Yeah.
Right. Education. And what was your plan at that time, Urmila ji? What were you thinking of doing in those days? Did you wanted to become an entrepreneur or to go into the field that you ended up going, or was it some other plans?
Totally no, nothing.
No.
There
No.
was
Okay.
no career in our mind. No, we were not
Right. Right.
career oriented. It was
Orientated.
just
Yeah.
that we wanted to be educated, so we got education. That's all.
Okay. And was it
And
bar for women in
yeah,
those days, Urmila ji? Was it bar for women in those days in India to enter any fields, or did you find it very open and receptive from people?
no, there were very few in medicine. There were hardly any engineers, but
Right.
mostly educated girls were supposed to join education centers. That
Right.
was the most they could think of.
Right, right. So there was a bar in that sense, basically. In those days, women could
Yeah,
only enter certain fields,
yeah.
certain sectors. They were barred, kind of barred in a way, softer way of saying, no, this is not for women, kind of thing. Yeah, yeah. And in terms of your relationship with your father, and obviously as an Indian or South Asian person, I think that there comes a very important point when you have to decide to find a life partner. So how was your conversation with your father? Was it your choice or was it chosen for you? And how did you accept that, please?
The choice was open, but I
Right,
think we believed in our father.
right,
That is why we went for arranged marriage.
right, right. And did you
Otherwise,
have, so
we had the
tell us,
people.
yes, yes. Tell us
So
a little bit
I was
about
married
how
to
did you, tell us how did you first time, had what kind of meeting you had with your husband and where did you both met first time and was it love at first sight or was it a bit more conversation? How did it all happen? Our worldwide audience would like to know all that.
my husband was a tea planter,
Right.
and he was visiting Delhi during his holidays. And
Yes.
at that time, there was a wedding in my family in Delhi.
Right.
So it was arranged that I met him
Okay.
in Delhi at that. And you can say that we liked each other immediately. That is,
Wonderful.
and we got engaged. And marriage
uh,
took place after 10 months.
Great. Great.
You know,
Did you write letters for to each others or any communication took place between both of you before the marriage?
we were
Right.
writing, but you can imagine the orthodoxy at that time that
Yes.
I was allowed to have correspondence, but
Yes.
other family members were not supposed to know this fact. So his
Okay.
letters were a well kept secret.
Okay, okay, okay. Wonderful, wonderful. What a love story that developed later on. So tell us
Yeah.
what was expected of you when you became a wife. What was expected you? Was it expected that you give up your career, forget about what you had studied, or was it more liberal when you moved into a different household? It tends to happen in India and in what I call Akhand Bharat, that when a woman marries, she's expected to give up her career and sort of like sit at home and be a housewife. So how did you? What was your experience, ma'am?
But I was going to the tea gardens, which had a very different set of rules, and where there were at least 70% Europeans at that time. British company. My
Wonderful.
husband was in a British company, and
Yeah,
70% people were British, and only
yeah,
30% Indians were there. My husband was an engineer,
right.
and by chance, the garden he was there. It was He was the only one on that garden. So I
Wonderful.
started my life in a 1,000-acre garden, small garden, which
Yes,
was being sold by the company. So he
uh-huh.
was there to handing over only.
Right.
So I was alone in that big bungalow, and on that area there was only one person there.
Oh, I
So you
see.
can imagine it could have been a very traumatic thing to
Yes,
go from a
yes,
city to a garden where you don't see anybody except
right.
visiting once a week club where you met
Yes,
Europeans and Indian planters.
right, right. Are we? How was that period? Describe the period for India at that time. What was India experiencing? What was the situation for women at that time in India?
The Indians in the tea gardens, they were mostly copying the Western way of life. Every Indian, when he got married, he made it sure that the wife becomes a non-vegetarian because it was not possible to remain a vegetarian.
Right.
And short hair, Hindi was no. You
Hmm.
should only, even if you are a singer, you sing English songs like that.
Right.
My husband was an outstanding player,
Hmm.
and he was famous because he had beaten Europeans in tennis. He was university and tennis
Wonderful.
blue. So
Yes.
he created tremors in the tea gardens
Uh-huh.
when he became champion. So he was popular, and when they tried to change me,
Yes.
but I had a very strong personality, I was not easily changeable.
Yes.
So I continued. I said, even if I don't get food for a day or two in a party, it won't matter.
Yes.
And I was fond of my hair, so I never got it cut. And
Right.
I sang Hindi songs, and people heard me.
Wonderful. So
Yeah.
because the worldwide audience is here and we are very open to everybody. So I presume you must have heard some English songs as well. Would you sing one for us,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
please?
I was educated. English was no problem.
Yes.
But to read Hindi novels, which they call trash,
Yes.
I think I have got the record
Yes.
number of authors which I have read.
Yes.
English, all the bestsellers.
Yes.
I can't remember the names of so many authors.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I didn't have that feeling that if I am reading a Hindi author,
Yes.
I am completing something,
Yes. No,
some
that's
offense.
absolutely. You're within your right, ma'am, to be able
Actually, I am
to.
very proud
Yes.
to be I am a very proud Indian.
Yes. So am I. As a matter of fact, we have something in common there. I listen to Hindi
Okay.
music in London from 60s,
So
50s, 70s, and 80s, and little bit of
I will,
90s. I'm a great fan.
you
I'm
know,
a great student of Hindi music.
very good. Nice to know.
Yes, yes, that's
Actually, and in the house, in the bungalows, the ladies behaved like mem sahib. That was the
yes.
normal. They will call the servants, koi hai. I said, when you
Hmm,
know their names, it is more
yeah,
dignified to call a person by their name, not
yes,
koi hai.
yeah,
The food they will say, Bera, khana
yeah,
dikhao.
yeah.
I used to say, I have it. I will not take because I
Right,
resented these bad habits. These
yeah,
are very derogatory.
yeah. No, I understand, and I think that comes across in your wonderful, determined personality. That's why you came all this far on this journey and been so successful. And I'm sure all the people across the world are looking at your personality and the courage that you've shown. So tell us. I read that you lost your husband as well. So
Yeah.
how traumatic was that? Did you have children by then, or
Yeah.
was it all of a
Three minor,
sudden? How
three minor children. I
three
had
minor
three
children?
minor children. Yeah. The youngest was
Yeah,
16
yeah,
years old, and
yeah.
the eldest was 16 years old, and the youngest was 6 years old only. And it was
Right,
so
right,
in few hours I lost him.
right, right. Was it very? I presume, and I can only say my words. It's basically must have been very traumatic for you at that time to
Yeah.
to to lose your
And
husband
at
with three
that
young
time,
children. Yeah,
and we were in the process of putting up a plant in Uttar Pradesh, Sahibabad, used oil
right,
refining plant.
right, right.
So, which was incomplete. As you
Yeah,
know, the business conditions even now are not very conducive to business. At
yeah,
that time, it was totally bad.
yeah, yeah,
Delays used to occur.
yeah.
So, incomplete factory and
Yes.
certain demise, people advised me to just sell the land and that construction.
Hmm.
But I decided to take the plunge that I would
Hmm.
like to complete it, give it a trial, and if I fail, then I will think of selling.
So
But
let's pause. Urmila ma'am, just let's pause there. You've gone through this tremendous tragedy. You've lost
yeah,
the breadwinner in a way, and I forgive me for saying that. And all of a sudden, you have three children, and here you are in the middle of a plantation where you were planning to do something for Uttar Pradesh, the greatest and the biggest state of India. Now,
yeah,
how brave was that at that time? What support did you have? What criticism did you face? People thought you probably, sorry, forgive me for using it out of your mind doing this after losing your husband, doing this sort of thing with young children. Please tell us what you put up with.
when the things are really desperate, one has
Mm,
to take desperate measures also
yes.
because I have no help,
Gee.
moral or financial support.
Mhm.
So everybody said that you are a master of education, you can get a job easily. Why don't you? But I was not ready for taking up a job and looking after my children. I wanted
Right.
to do something,
Yes.
and it was a dream. It was a dream. We were working together. So after 3 4 months, I said no. I will complete the plant. But there were great problems because my husband had got this project as a technical entrepreneur. So the borrower's wife cannot be considered normally. But the managing director of financial corporation, he met me and he had seen me for a few months, and he said that I am confident that she can run the and complete the unit. But there was a problem. They said that, that you are an IS officer, you may leave, and there will be problem that why did we give the loan to a technical person's wife. So he had to write that no, I take full responsibility that she will be able to complete the unit. And they disbursed the loan, and I completed the unit in 3-4 months time and commissioned the plant.
So we were talking about your beginning of your entrepreneurial career, which was what you were describing, an IS officer who felt that you had what it
Yes,
requires
I
to
had
be successful.
confidence and, yeah.
Please.
But even then, things were pretty bad
Mhm.
because a woman entrepreneur
Mhm.
was almost an unknown figure at that time.
Right. Right.
Banks were not comfortable.
Yeah.
So everybody believed when the unit was commissioned that ultimately it will be sold. So
Yes.
there were people who were telephoning me and asking, then when are you selling it?
Right. Right.
They wanted me to fail. And the
Yes.
more they wanted me to fail,
Yes.
probably my determination to succeed
Yes.
became stronger and stronger.
Yes.
I
I
was
quite easily. Yeah, I quite easily correlate that to myself as well. Whenever people challenge people, they tend to come out with their best. So presumably you have this tremendous amount of determination and conviction
yeah,
that you will succeed irrespective of what comes your way. And it doesn't matter
yeah,
what it is, but you will get there. And that's
yeah.
important. And the most important thing that we're learning from you, despite all the hurdles, you were never going to give up. You just didn't know
No,
what giving up was,
it just,
because
yeah,
you know
I
you didn't
never give up.
expect to. Yes,
No,
so it's important to understand that women. One of the lessons that we learned from your journey was that basically from early on, you were one very determined character. You stood out, and you took on early responsibility, or was forced on you the early responsibility, and you, in the face of all that, you basically came up and delivered. So
yeah.
there's this tremendous character developing as an entrepreneur. So Urmila ma'am, tell us how then from there your first successful venture, how that other things folded and you became the icon of India in terms of the entrepreneurship that you brought to India. And what India is now is partly because of women like you, because we have never recognized the contributions that women made to the society. So please tell us about your journey from being the first successful venture that you did, and after that, what was to unfold, please.
Because my unit is a recycling unit, recycling of used oil. And this is a line which is totally unorganized even after 40 years.
Mhm.
Normally, I will explain that what happened then. There were these kabadi, the people who buy scrap. They
Yes,
used to
scrap
buy,
metal traders.
they used to buy used oil, and then it was somehow cleaned and sold. And people were convinced that it is spurious oil. So
Right,
when I put up the plant and I contacted people, they said this is refined oil is spurious oil.
right.
So I tried with the government, with various departments, ministries to make rules. And as early as 1985, I
Yes,
convinced the Ministry of Petroleum
yes,
that used oil is a valuable asset
yes,
and recycler should be registered.
yes,
Somehow I could convince him, and he
yes.
started a scheme of registering recyclers. This
Right.
process has started,
Yes,
but it was only the guidelines. There was no
yes,
law as such. So
yes,
nothing much happened. A, a team of technical people from all the oil companies, they
yes,
visited people and they
yes,
registered. So a number of
yes,
people were registered. Then in 2000,
Yes.
India signed in the Basel Convention and used oil
Mhm.
was declared hazardous.
Right.
And then Ministry of Environment came into the picture and a draft notification was being prepared. I
Hmm.
was part of that team, of that task force,
Wonderful.
because the ministry did not know anything about used oil.
Right.
So I was able to influence them and make
Yeah.
certain rules. But even then, after making the draft policy, the notification did not do something like
Yes.
collection of used oil or sale to the oil companies. There was
Yes.
all these factors were not taken into consideration, and
Right.
nothing much happened except
Right.
that now after 2004, 2000, only the registered people could buy used
Yes.
oil,
Right.
but
Right.
it did not
Right.
help. The prices, it became a commodity which got more and more price. So
Yes.
people believed in buying, the registered people wanted to buy the oil and resell it. So it
Correct.
did not help actually the industry.
Correct. Correct. And ma'am, can I just ask you to pause for a minute and tell us the situation at that time? You're talking about 1985. That's just before India was to become a liberalized country in terms of economics. Manmohan Singh's a grand gamble. Basically, tell us a little bit about what the situation was like in the with the departments and places you were dealing with. How many women were there? There were 10%, 20%, 50% women representation, or was it barely 2 or 3% in India at
Very
that time?
few, very few
Very
people.
few. Right,
Yeah.
very few. Yeah. And why did you think that was? Because there were people like you, and we have had a history since Sarojini Naidu, who played a prominent role in our independence. Why were women not represented?
But even now, you can count women entrepreneurs or famous women on your fingertips. There are so
Yes,
few.
yes,
How
yes,
many entrepreneurs are there? Yeah,
yes,
as
yes,
compared
yes.
to men.
Correct, correct.
It
And why do you
is,
think that is,
yeah.
ma'am? And why do you think that is?
Because it is not easy to run a business, to get finances, to expand, and we don't get encouragement from the government also. There are many schemes, for women entrepreneurs, but I can tell you, I never got any preference or any support from any department.
So do
They're
you
all,
think do you think there's a case then, for us to move forward and become a Soniki Churiya again, as we would like to be known again, to then have banks that are predominantly catering for women, who look after women needs? I mean, banks, as you're saying in India, are catering. Well, I'm assuming from your saying is a 90% of it is catering for men. It's man's world in India still, and in the world,
yeah,
and generally across the world, basically. But
yes.
no, would you say that there's a special place for special small specialized banks who cater for women and women entrepreneurs? Because if women are having problem in obtaining
And that,
finances, which is the key to running a business, then obviously there's a case to be made where we need to come up with some solutions. And you think the solution may also be that we need women banks where women run those banks, or even men run it, but there's a specifically women needs. What do you think?
no, instead of having a special bank for it, the policies should be favoring
Hmm.
the women
Yes.
entrepreneur.
And how would
You
you
see
say?
the
How
business
would you? How would you? How
markets.
would you go about that, man? Because that's my lifetime dream to get in a situation where we have 50-50 ratio. So when women go to a bank, that they get the same facility, they get the same finances made available, the same rates as men do. How more than half of the population of the world are made up of women. I mean, that's just basic knowledge for everyone. So
Yeah, that,
basically, here we are. Half the population is ignored by the banks.
yes, in
Right.
every
So
field
they need to
they are.
tap into that market. They need to
Yeah,
tap into that market, I presume.
yeah,
So
yeah,
would
that,
you? I think we should do something about it. So, ma'am, I think it's been very, very good interacting with you. Tell me from your experience that the 5 things that we need to do across the world, not just in India, to improve the conditions for women. 5 things that you would have to do. What would those 5 things be in your view?
I think the most important thing is educating the women.
Yes.
That is, if the woman of the house is educated,
Mm-hmm.
naturally there is a lot of improvement all over.
Mm-hmm.
The main reason is that women are even now
Mm-hmm.
being kept uneducated, and in orthodox families,
Mm-hmm.
girls are considered to be that little education and then marriage. So that has
Yes.
to change. Yeah.
Yes.
There,
Yes.
there are a few percentage which are very career oriented.
Mm-hmm.
They go for career, but that is another extreme.
Mm-hmm.
One has to make a balance that
Mm-hmm.
one woman can be a good
Mm-hmm.
homemaker
Mm-hmm.
and can do something at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily that only business and career can make you.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
the
you
first,
still feel that you still feel a traditional approach where the responsibility for the running of the house, providing for the house is husband in that case, but the running for the house jointly, then working as well remains with the lady of the house. Is that what you're saying, ma'am?
yeah, yeah.
Right, right,
In
right.
Western countries, men share the burden, but
Yes.
the Indian mindset, even now, a
Hmm.
working woman has to work really hard
Yes,
because the
yes.
children is entirely her responsibility.
So you
And
think that in India, the middle classes that we have, the women who are working, they are having to do three jobs as opposed to men
yeah,
who's going doing one job. So there's a completely wrong precedent being set here
yeah,
that a
yeah.
woman has to do three or four jobs as opposed to a man who's doing one job. And so that's something. And then other points that you would like to raise. So education, obviously, I understand. Perhaps we can by that I deduce that there's a position where men need to do more homely work as well. They need to pull their weight, I call it, right? So that's fair enough. What are the other points you would say, man?
But these are very vague things.
Mm-hmm.
One decides how to live life, what to achieve, how to
Mm-hmm.
bring up children. There are no hard and fast rules that one should do this, this, this.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I can give you guidelines for
Mm-hmm.
5 or 4 to make
Right,
difference.
right, right,
I think once the woman is educated, and she will understand everything better than the
right.
present.
So you think the education is core to
Yeah,
developing. I also think that educating women will be as I always repeat this in my shows, educating women will be a win-win situation for everyone. So
yeah,
if women are educated, they will end up getting better jobs. There'll be
yeah.
more job creation, and the job creation will lead to higher revenue being raised in taxes, which will allow India to prosper. And in this case, Uttar Pradesh, where you come from, the wonderful state of Uttar Pradesh, it will be more prosperous. There'll be more roads. There'll be more women's safety. And at the same time, the multinational companies that you have actually also represented would have better products because women understand women better than men do. So I think it'll be a win-win for everyone, as I keep repeating this. So my take on the show, ma'am, is that you have done so much and so wonderfully and so well that I think someone like you, should be awarded a Padma Shri, I think. And I would say for the government of India to look at that as a
No,
possibility to please. And also one last
but
message for the audience across the world, because women in the Western world, ma'am, they have similar problems. We have issues in India, and I think you cited education as a key, which I always believe anyway. The women should be highly
but
educated and should be. Please.
I mean education in the real sense, not only going to university or college, but
Yes.
the mindset has to change,
Yes.
and for
Yes.
that the education system in India has to change.
Right. How would you change that? What would you recommend we change?
And it's a very difficult thing,
Hmm.
but I think one
We.
should be best of all countries. I mean, the education system should be modified.
Hmm.
We should take something from America, something from England, like that,
Hmm. Okay.
and then
Okay.
make a year better. Uh,
Right.
just this rote memory and giving examinations, getting 95% marks, I think that has really ruined the education system. And
Right.
people, after being educated, are not treating women and their family as they should be
Sure,
treated,
ma'am.
with
Sure,
respect.
sure,
So
sure.
the school should teach
Yes.
that you have to be respectful for towards women, and then
Yes.
naturally the security of women will automatically. When the child sees that women are respected in the family, that child is not going to misbehave with others. That is
Right.
my
No, I
feeling.
think that's an absolutely correct observation, and I think that's an important observation, if I may say so. What we do learn from talking to you, ma'am, is that you were brought up by a liberal father.
Yeah.
You then were a determined character, despite all the roadblocks that you faced. You made it through, and now you're an icon for women. I salute you. I think
No,
you've
but
done tremendously well, and what a wonderful character, and what an honor to be spending time with you. And may God bless you. May God give you a lot more years
I
on
would
this
like
planet.
to I would like to communicate to you that for my
Please,
efforts I have received uh, award from the government also,
yes,
Ministry of Women and Child Welfare, for my
yes,
industry, and I got the award, 100 Women
yes,
Achiever Award in
fantastic,
2015, and I
fantastic.
was awarded the Woman Achiever Award by
Yes,
MIT University,
yeah,
and my own community also recognized my efforts. So that
yes.
way, I'm very contented. I have got rewards and awards.
Wonderful. Thank you, ma'am, and I'm so proud of you. I would like to conclude by saying the lessons that we learn is that she was brought up by a liberal father, but a very, very determined character. Yet we also have to remember the woman in India or in the world has to do three jobs in order to compete on the same level as men. And all sorts of issues are put through her to ensure that she does not succeed, such as financing not made available for women, which should be the case in a developing country. We learned from her today also that the education is the key to success, but not just the education of going to university. It's a more liberal form of education where you coexist with other people. And what a wonderful message we hear from a wonderful city of Mathura, from Uttar Pradesh, right in India. And we wish everybody a good evening wherever you are. Please take those lessons and please keep praying for us. Thank you. God bless you. Long live India.